There was never a specific time when I wanted to become a veterinarian that I can remember. It was just more of that's all I've ever wanted to do since I was very, very little. I remember as a little kid going outside and finding frogs and lizards and baby birds and bringing them in the house, and my family would get so upset. But that's, all I've ever wanted to do since I was, very, very small. I remember when I was in, I think it was either kindergarten or first grade, one of the assignments was, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I drew a picture of me with a bunny on an exam table and was like, I want to be a veterinarian. So I've never really wanted to do anything else, and that's what I was able to accomplish. So I'm very happy that I was able to do that. Growing up, I remember my first couple pets were rabbits, and they weren't nice. I didn't get my first dog until I was about 9 years old, but that was my baby. But I always had fish or hermit crabs, or I always had some sort of animal growing up. And then when I got a little bit older, I started getting into horses, but it was horses and dogs that I always really had growing up. I remember when I first started back in 2021, my very first job. Very special dog that came in. It was a big pit bull. She was super sweet. And I will always remember her. Her name was Nyla. She was so cute. And she came in because she had a big necrotic, deflated abscess on the side of her face. I told the owners that we could fix it, we can do everything, so we put her under anesthesia. I ended up having to cut away all that nasty dead skin, and I wasn't able to close it because it was on the side of her face. So what I did was I placed what's called a tie-over bandage. So pretty much you put sutures around the wound where the skin is healthy, and then you just pack the wound with medicine and gauze, and you cover it up, and then you loop some medical string through it. So pretty much you tie on the bandage. And she had to come back in every week for bandage changes, and that wound just started to slowly get smaller and smaller. It took about 3 months for it to be where she didn't have to wear an e-collar, she didn't have to have a bandage, but those owners were just very dedicated to her, and they brought her in every single week for bandage changes, and she was the sweetest dog. She ended up with a very gnarly scar on the side of her face, and hair never grew back, but she was always just a very big, happy, lovable dog. I just loved that the owners were so dedicated to her. Even with the very deformed part of her face after everything was done, she was still very happy and went on to, continue to live a normal life. The thing that keeps me grounded most is my family and my husband. I do get very overwhelmed at times with the caseloads that come in, and I have to remind myself, and my husband has to remind me that, hey, you can't care about an animal more than the owner does. And sometimes, I want to try to fix an animal beyond what the owner can do or what they're willing to do or what they can afford, and I have to remind myself, and my husband and everyone here reminds me that they're like, hey, you can only do so much, but if you can only do so much, that is the best medicine. So that keeps me grounded quite a bit. Full day off is me sleeping in until about 10 a.m. if my son will let me, who's 8 months old, and then hopefully getting a nap in later in the day. My husband and I, we like to be outside, and we have a bunch of animals. We have a couple horses, some goats, we got a pig, we got a dogs and cats. So pretty much just relaxing at home. Sometimes we'll run some errands. If we can get the babysitter to come over, we'll take the horses for a ride. But yeah, we pretty much just like to hang out at home and have a lazy day off. If I could give one piece of advice to a new pet owner, it would definitely be get pet insurance. I know a lot of owners probably don't know that there's pet insurance. I personally have pet insurance for all of my pets and only had to use it once, but it's more for like the catastrophic things. So your dog gets hit by a car, your cat gets blocked, eats lilies, something that's just gonna be astronomically expensive. I would definitely recommend getting it for like the little French bulldogs and things that are gonna have chronic issues throughout their lives, because those costs do add up, and I feel like it really does help with the standard of care that we're able to offer if pet insurance is an option.